Power rarely announces itself. It hides in gestures, silences, and timing. Picture a young executive in a meeting who dazzles everyone with bold ideas, only to find their boss quietly turning cold the next day. No one says it, but the balance has shifted. That invisible tension, that quiet punishment for shining too bright, is what the 48 Laws of Power by Robert Greene is all about. Since its release, the book has become a global phenomenon, loved by CEOs, artists, and politicians, and whispered about in locker rooms, offices, and backrooms. Some call it dangerous, others say it's simply honest. Greene draws from centuries of history, from Machiavelli to Napoleon, to show how power actually moves beneath the surface of human behavior. Robert Greene himself isn't a corporate titan or politician. He studied classics, wrote speeches in Hollywood, and watched people climb and fall. Frustrated by the same manipulation he saw everywhere, he wrote the 48 Laws of Power not to glorify deceit, but to expose it. Greene often says understanding power doesn't make you ruthless, it makes you free. In this summary, we'll explore how to navigate these invisible games with awareness, confidence, and integrity. Of course, we can't go through all 48 laws in one video. That would take hours. So instead, we'll focus on the most powerful and timeless ones, the ideas that still shape business, politics, and even our everyday relationships today. Power, as the author suggests, often moves like smoke, seen only when the light hits it just right. The first rule of survival in this world is simple: never reveal your true hand. People who show all their cards invite others to manipulate or block them. This is why those who understand strategy often hide their motives behind harmless smiles or casual remarks. In the book, one timeless lesson is clear: conceal your intentions. Just like generals in World War II who faked invasions to mislead their enemies, successful people in life often do the same in gentler ways. A clever joke, a vague comment, or a change of subject can protect your plans until they're ready. The author said that power flows to those who can quietly direct attention away from what truly matters to them. Another law reminds us that silence can be louder than speech. Powerful people impress and intimidate by saying less. The author writes, "The moment you speak too much, you hand others a map of your mind, your fears, your doubts, your weaknesses. But when you say little, people project their own ideas onto you." Think of a reserved leader in a meeting who speaks in short, deliberate sentences. That person seems in control, not because of what they say, but because of what they leave unsaid. The less you reveal, the more others must interpret, and in their guessing, they often give you power without realizing it. Another principle goes straight to the heart of human nature: never outshine the master. Ambition can be dangerous when displayed too early or too brightly. Throughout history, courtiers, generals, and protégés have fallen for this mistake. They impress their superiors too much, too soon. The author tells the story of Nicolas Fouquet, a French minister who built a magnificent castle to honor King Louis XIV. The celebration was so grand, it made the king feel overshadowed. Shortly after, Fouquet was arrested and spent the rest of his life in prison. The lesson is timeless. Always let those above you feel secure and admired. Let them believe the spotlight shines on them, while your influence quietly grows in the shadows. Still, being too predictable can also be a weakness. The author thinks unpredictability is a weapon that confuses and deters rivals. When others can't read you, they hesitate. This is what's meant by keeping people guessing. It's not about deceit for its own sake, but about maintaining control through surprise. A chess master doesn't win by repeating the same move. They win by staying unreadable. In everyday life, this can mean changing your tone, your timing, or your approach. Once people can't define you, they can't easily oppose you either. Equally, the book suggests that power is not constant exposure. It's strategic visibility. The author explains that those who court attention too aggressively become predictable and tiresome, while those who disappear for a while grow in mystique. Think of how an artist vanishes after a hit album, only to return later to roaring interest. This is the art of balancing attention. A flash of visibility makes people notice, a well-timed absence makes them wonder. By mixing presence and mystery, you keep your influence alive. In the end, the subtle game isn't about loud domination or open conflict. It's about quiet control, mastering when to speak, when to hide, when to shine, and when to vanish. True power, according to the author, comes from being unreadable yet composed. Those who move softly but think deeply often win without anyone realizing they were even playing. While strategy and silence form the invisible foundation of power, appearance is the stage where it plays out. The author reminds us that reputation is everything, the cornerstone of power. Once damaged, it's almost impossible to rebuild. Throughout history, great figures have risen and fallen not by skill or intelligence, but by what others believed about them. Reputation acts as armor, shielding you from attacks before they even come. The author said it should be guarded like treasure, built through consistent action and protected fiercely at the first hint of danger. Think of it as a bank account of trust and credibility. Each lie, slip, or rumor withdraws from it. A person who loses their reputation doesn't just lose respect, they lose leverage because others stop listening. But power doesn't survive in the shadows. The author thinks attention is a form of currency. Court attention at all costs, one law declares. It doesn't mean begging for it, but earning it through presence and boldness. In the 19th century, showman P.T. Barnum mastered this art by creating spectacle out of ordinary things. He knew that invisibility was death to influence. Today, that lesson lives on through viral creators, public speakers, or entrepreneurs who know how to stay visible without losing focus. The key isn't random noise, it's recognizable style. In a world full of distractions, the person who knows how to be seen with purpose, not just seen, stays powerful. Still, even the best reputation fades unless it evolves. The author said reinvention is the secret to survival. Times change, audiences shift, and those who cling to their old image get left behind. This is why artists reinvent their sound and leaders refresh their message. In the 48 Laws of Power, this is captured in the law, recreate yourself. Reinvention isn't deception, it's renewal. It's about taking control of your own story before someone else rewrites it for you. The most successful people adapt before they're forced to, reshaping how the world perceives them while staying true to their essence. Presentation also matters. One of the author's most elegant lessons is act like royalty. Not arrogance, but quiet dignity. People treat you based on how you treat yourself. If you carry yourself with self-respect, calmness, and confidence, others mirror that energy. The author thinks that power often comes from perception, and those who appear sure of their worth are rarely questioned. Even without titles or wealth, composure creates its own authority. In courts, offices, or social circles, the one who seems unbothered often ends up leading. Yet, perfection can backfire. Too much grace invites envy. That's why the author suggests showing small, human flaws, a misstep, a touch of vulnerability, or a self-deprecating smile. It doesn't weaken you. It makes you relatable. A flawless image can isolate you, but an authentic one connects you. People trust those who seem real. Leaders who show both confidence and humility are often the ones others willingly follow. Lastly, the author warns against getting your hands dirty. The law, keep your hands clean, means maintaining moral distance from messy tasks. Let others handle what must be done, while your name remains untarnished. History is filled with rulers and executives who acted through intermediaries to preserve their image. This isn't cowardice, it's self-preservation. Power depends on credibility, and credibility needs a spotless surface. In the end, power is theater. What people see shapes what they believe. You don't control truth, you control perception. Through reputation, reinvention, confidence, humility, and cleanliness of image, the author shows that influence isn't just about what you do, but how your story is told. Once your image is secure, the next step is movement. Power stagnates when it stands still. The author thinks that progress belongs to those who act boldly, not those who wait for certainty. Boldness draws people in, while hesitation breeds doubt. History favors the decisive, the ones who step forward when others freeze. Napoleon Bonaparte embodied this principle. In his early campaigns, he charged ahead with speed and confidence, often with limited information, and his audacity alone unsettled stronger armies. The author said even a wrong move made with conviction is often forgiven, because people trust clarity more than caution. A timid decision invites questions, a bold one commands belief. Yet boldness without foresight can collapse under its own weight. That's why another law insists you must plan to the end. The author compares this to chess, where every piece matters and every move builds toward a checkmate. The amateur reacts, the strategist anticipates. In power, foresight turns risk into rhythm. Think of it like building a bridge before crossing a river. The careful planner doesn't wait for luck, they prepare for its arrival. Many of history's most admired leaders succeeded not because they were lucky, but because they imagined several endings and knew how to steer events toward the one they wanted. Still, even the best plans fail without timing. The author said timing is the invisible art behind power. Acting too early can ruin a good idea. Acting too late can make it irrelevant. True masters of influence know when to wait and when to strike. They move with patience, not passivity. In the 48 Laws of Power, this is shown through figures who let their rivals exhaust themselves before taking the stage at the perfect moment. The same applies in modern life. Whether it's speaking in a meeting or launching a project, success often depends less on what you do and more on when you do it. But some confrontations can't be avoided. The author's most controversial idea, crush your enemy totally, is not about violence, but psychology. When conflicts are left half-resolved, resentment festers. A rival left with pride or resources can return stronger. The author thinks closure matters, either in the rivalry firmly through reconciliation or through decisive distance. In ancient courts and modern offices alike, unfinished battles lead to endless instability. Power requires peace, and peace comes when loose ends are tied cleanly. Still, the sharpest weapon is emotional control. The author warns that anger and chaos are tools you can turn against others, but never allow to master you. When people lose their temper, they lose their sense of direction. A calm mind sees openings others miss. During political debates, corporate struggles, or personal arguments, the one who stays composed often appears stronger. Sometimes, provoking others into emotional outbursts exposes their weaknesses, while your silence signals control. Power isn't loud, it's measured. Together, these ideas form the offensive strategy of power. Move with courage, plan beyond the moment, strike when the time feels right, and remain emotionally unshaken. The author's message is simple. Confidence without strategy is reckless, but strategy without boldness is lifeless. The true art lies in balancing both, turning movement into momentum and patience into quiet strength. Once boldness sets events in motion, the next challenge is managing the people around you. Power rarely exists in isolation. It grows through relationships, alliances, rivalries, and unspoken dependencies. The author thinks that understanding human nature is the true art of influence. But people are unpredictable, and emotion can distort judgment. That's why the author warns against relying too heavily on friends. Loyalty built on comfort often hides tension underneath. Familiarity breeds complacency, and when stakes rise, envy can surface. In contrast, former rivals sometimes make stronger allies because their loyalty is earned, not assumed. They respect boundaries and understand value. The author said that friendship and power must be handled with caution. Kindness should never blind strategy. Dependence, however, is a different form of loyalty. Make others depend on you, one law advises. When people need what only you can offer, a skill, a network, or insight, you become indispensable. This isn't manipulation, it's strategic interdependence. In royal courts or modern workplaces, those who can't be easily replaced are the ones others hesitate to cross. The author thinks influence flows not from charm alone, but from necessity. Build a reputation for something rare, and you'll never have to chase power. It will orbit around you naturally. Still, relationships require trust, and trust requires honesty, but not all honesty. The author advises using truth selectively. Complete transparency can be dangerous. It leaves you exposed. Yet a small, well-placed truth can disarm suspicion. A negotiator, for instance, might reveal a minor weakness or share a harmless, confidential fact, creating an illusion of openness. This gesture softens the other side, making them more likely to reveal what truly matters. The author said this kind of honesty is not deceit, it's emotional intelligence. It's the ability to build confidence without giving away your position. Another law touches on persuasion. The author believes that appeals to self-interest work far better than moral lectures. People rarely move for noble reasons alone. They move when their own goals align with yours. Persuasion becomes effortless when you frame your needs as mutual benefit. In this way, you transform manipulation into cooperation. History is full of leaders who united people not through force, but by making others feel their success was part of a shared vision. The author's lesson is timeless. Don't demand loyalty, make loyalty profitable. Even so, the ultimate mastery of social power lies in control over choices. Control the options means shaping the environment so every path leads toward your goal. You allow others to feel free, but within boundaries you've designed. This technique turns confrontation into quiet compliance. A leader might offer two choices, both favorable to their plan, or a negotiator might present an ultimatum disguised as flexibility. The person across the table feels empowered, unaware that their decision was guided from the start. The author said this is the most elegant kind of control, invisible but absolute. Together, these laws turn relationships into strategy. The author portrays social power as a chessboard, not a battlefield. You win not by crushing others, but by directing their moves with subtlety, by creating reliance, managing trust, appealing to interest, and shaping perception. True influence doesn't shout or threaten. It simply leaves no alternative path but the one you designed. After learning how to navigate the social chessboard, the author turns inward. Power over others means little without power over yourself. The author thinks that the greatest leaders, strategists, and thinkers all share one hidden strength: the ability to remain calm, adaptable, and independent, even when the world around them shifts. Power begins in the mind. The author said one of the biggest traps in the pursuit of influence is dependence. Stay independent, one law advises. It means never tying yourself too tightly to one person, group, or belief system. Loyalty is admirable, but blind loyalty is dangerous. When your sense of identity depends on someone else's approval, you lose control of your direction. Independence doesn't mean isolation. It means freedom to move, to choose, to adapt. The author thinks that in politics, business, or even friendships, the most respected people are those who can walk away without losing their sense of self. They remain loyal to their principles, not their attachments. Another kind of inner strength comes from learning what not to want. Ignore what you can't have, says one of the author's sharper insights. Desire is one of power's oldest traps. The more you chase what's out of reach, the more control you give it. People who can't let go of what they've lost often make desperate moves, exposing their weakness. The author compares this to a game where ignoring a prize can sometimes be more powerful than winning it. By showing indifference, you rob that object or person of power over you. This emotional discipline frees your focus for what truly matters, instead of wasting energy on what's gone. The author also believes that true power belongs to those who can adapt. Be formless, the book advises. Think of water, soft, shapeless, yet unstoppable. It changes to fit any container, flows around obstacles, and slowly erodes even the hardest rock. That's how powerful people survive. They don't resist change, they become part of it. The author thinks rigidity is the beginning of decline. History's fallen empires, failed businesses, and broken leaders all shared one fatal flaw: they refused to adapt. Being formless means never becoming predictable, never being trapped by your own habits or ego. But adaptability means little without emotional control. The author repeatedly reminds us that emotions expose weakness. Anger, envy, and fear are like cracks in armor. When others can provoke you, they own you. Emotional mastery doesn't mean feeling nothing. It means staying calm enough to choose your response. The author said that in moments of chaos, those who keep their composure gain a natural authority. Their calm becomes contagious, a quiet power that others instinctively trust. Still, the path of power is full of contradictions. The author doesn't hide this. Some laws seem to clash. You're told to be kind, but also ruthless, to trust, yet stay cautious. The truth is that power isn't a set of fixed rules. It's a dance between opposites. Mastery comes from sensing which side to lean on in the moment. Being too rigid makes you predictable. Being too moral can make you naive. Balance, not purity, is what keeps you effective. In the end, the author's message becomes clear. The real struggle isn't against enemies or rivals, but against yourself. The strongest players don't seek to dominate others. They master their impulses, emotions, and desires. The author thinks that when you can stay calm in chaos, flexible under pressure, and loyal to your own principles, external power becomes almost effortless. The final victory is inner control, because once you govern yourself, the world follows naturally. After journeying through the author's laws, what remains is not a manual for domination, but a mirror for human behavior. The author thinks that people, whether they admit it or not, are constantly seeking advantage, status, and security. Power is not just political or corporate. It lives quietly in relationships, workplaces, and even daily conversations. Understanding these dynamics doesn't turn you into a manipulator. It helps you recognize how influence moves around you. Awareness is protection. Reading the 48 Laws of Power feels like pulling back a curtain on society's hidden stage. It can be unsettling to realize how much of life runs on appearance, emotion, and perception. Yet there's freedom in that awareness. Once you see the patterns, you can move more calmly through them, without falling into traps of ego or naivety. Even today, in 2025, the laws still echo everywhere, from social media's attention games to the quiet hierarchies of modern offices. The author said the point is not to exploit others, but to stay grounded and strategic, to understand power without being consumed by it. In the end, the question isn't whether these laws are good or bad, it's how you choose to use them. Because in life's ongoing game of influence, understanding remains the ultimate armor.